everyone, I am Catherine Kakwezi, your teacher today, coming from Namugongo Secondary and Vocational School. Today I am going to take you through literature, particularly A-level literature. My dear senior 5s and senior 6s, you all know that literature is made up of 3 papers, paper 1, paper 2 and paper 3. Particularly today though, we are not going to look at all the papers. It's going to be specifically paper 1. And as we all know, it is also known as prose and poetry. Alright, so our topic of discussion today is going to be imagery in poetry. Why is that the name of our topic? The name of our topic is imagery in poetry because specifically we all know that in poetry and only poetry, that is where we find imagery. Yes. So now let me take you through what exactly imagery is. Imagery is one of those aspects that a poet uses to help bring out meaning of a particular poem when the readers are going through it and discussing it. Now, the word imagery comes from the word image. Now, we all know that an image is a picture, but one should put in mind that the kind of pictures that we have in poetry are not pictures drawn with pencil and colors. My art people will excuse me on that. These are what we call mental pictures. Now, how are these mental pictures created? The mental pictures are created with the help of words. These words are going to help draw particular pictures that are going to help us go through our poem successfully, so that meaning and subject matter are enhanced. Girls and boys, we all know that we have 5 senses. Are we together? 5 senses. And we all know that these senses are the sense of sight, the sense of smell, the sense of hearing, the sense of touch, the taste, and what not. When we are looking at imagery in poetry, we know for sure that all these 5 senses and so much more must be appealed to with our use of words. Now, let us study some of the lines that you can see on your screen before you. The first line is coming from David Rubadiri's An African Vigil. Evening drapes gold on distant hills. Like I already said, when we are talking about imagery, these are words or lines from poems that are able to create particular mental pictures when you are reading or when you are reciting poetry. Now, that first line should be able to create a particular picture in your mind as you go on reading. The second picture, the second image using words is the wine tasted of tar. If you know the taste of tar, you can already taste it on your mind's tongue when you read that line. So all that is imagery, those mental pictures that are created and are able to appeal to our senses. The first one, evening drapes gold on distant hills, is appealing to our sense of sight. That line can clearly show you that the poet or the speaker is looking at a beautiful sunset. The second one, you can already taste the tar, this wine that is tasting of tar. The third one, and the ting-tong-tang of the guitar. Can you hear the guitar playing? Of course, all this is in your mind's eye, so you should have to use your imagination to imagine these sounds and these tastes and these pictures that are created with words. And the ting-tong-tang of the guitar is an image that is appealing to our sense of hearing. Number 4, look at line number 4. The tattered flags waved carelessly waved from the wind, or from the effect of the wind. When you can already see that the waves, the flags are waving from east and west because of the effect of the wind. Now that is a particular kind of image that we shall go on to discuss in the next few minutes. The 5th image is the reeking foliage gave way. Now the word reeking is a particular smell of rotting, okay? So when you read that, you will know that this may be the leaves that were on the ground, or the grass that was on the ground was, wet and on its way to rotting. So the smell is reeking. Therefore, our sense of smell is appealed to in this line. The last line is the ice-cold stone dangled under the heavy storm. Please put emphasis on ice-cold. We have all touched ice before, okay? Now, something cold is cold, okay? It is icy. So you can already feel it too. You can already imagine it by just touching it, and therefore that is what we call imagery so far. Now, you can already tell that based on the lines that we have read, those sentences that we have read, it is up to the poet's intention to make sure that he or she uses the right words and the right words in their best order. You cannot create a good image in a poem without choosing the best words in the best order. Therefore, if you do that, we call that diction, or the choice of words. If you are a poet out there and you want to create a poem or write a poem that is rich in imagery, please take note of diction or your choice of words. Now, learners, still remember that we are looking at imagery in poetry. I remember mentioning that imagery is only and only in poetry. When we come to prose, what we know as imagery is descriptive writing. So girls and boys, what are the different kinds of images? I kept on referring to the 5 senses. Or that we all know, that we all studied in primary school. But when it comes to paper 1 literature, these 5 senses are given particular names. So they are categorized according to the senses that they appeal to. Number 1, or what is the most common, is the visual image. As you can see on your screen, these are the types of images, okay? We have the visual images. Now, the word is no longer imagery. So, the words become images. Are we together? As you can see on the screen. They are visual images, we have auditory images, we have gustatory images, we have olfactory images, we have tactile images, and we also have motile images. We are going to see just how these images work, okay? Now, when we are talking about the visual images, which is our first on the list, when we are talking about the visual images, as you can already guess, visual images are those that appeal to your sense of sight. Okay? Remember the other line that we read? One of those lines that I gave you in the first instance. Evening drapes gold on distant hills. That is one of the examples of a visual image. Okay? Now, when you read a visual image, you are supposed or you are able to picture a particular picture. or to picture a particular situation. Are we together? Look at these examples from the poem Letter from a Contract Worker, which I know that most of you know. Okay? The example is, I want to write to you a letter of your lips red as henna, of your hair black as mud, and lastly, of your eyes sweet as honey. Okay. So girls and boys, we can already see that the lips of the object of this speaker's admiration, they are red. We all know the color red, and we are already picturing, wow, this woman must be having red lipstick or naturally red lips. She also has black hair, not brown, not blonde, but black hair. I can as well see, or I can assume that all of you are seeing mental pictures of this woman. Notice how the similes help to create mental pictures about the speaker's object of admiration. Probably this is a woman that he admires or loves. Now that is a visual or visual images. Next, remember, I will keep on referring to the senses, to the 5 senses, and imagery is that aspect that appeals to the senses. Next, the next type of images is what we call an auditory image. An auditory image, as you can already guess, it has to do with hearing. Are we together? When we are looking at auditory images, these are the kind of images that appeal to our sense of hearing. So, when the writer or the poet talks about the thundering in the sky, the word thundering is something that has to do with sound. And therefore, even when you are reading under a sunny sky, you are able to imagine a thundering sky. Probably there is rain. Okay? Let me give you one of the examples from the poem Tarantella by Hilaire Belloc from Ethiopia. He says in one of the lines of the poem, and the hammer at the doors, and the din, and the hip-hop hap of the clap. Girls and boys, we all know what a clap sounds like, okay? So we can hear the hip-hop hap of the clap. We can hear the hammer and the din at the door. That is what we call an auditory image. It is also known as an audible image. So either way, you are talking about the same thing. So auditory images appeal to our sense of hearing, while visual images appeal to our sense of seeing or our sense of sight. Next, we have the olfactory images. Okay? Olfactory images, just like the word sounds, it has to do with the nose. Okay? Now, you can already guess that these are images that appeal to our sense of smell. Okay? Have you ever read a cookbook or a recipe? When you are reading a recipe, definitely you will smell a certain kind of food. Okay? You will smell a certain kind of food, and that is where olfactory images come from. But we are not looking at recipes or cookbooks. We are looking at poems. And I will reiterate that these images are created with words, okay? You're not going to find bowls of food or pictures painted with color or pen. You're going to find words. So the poet must be as good as possible in order to paint these pictures. So we are looking at the olfactory images. Now, olfactory images are those that deal with our sense of smell, as you can see on your screen before you. When you read some of these lines, can you smell anything? Look at the first line. Her breath uttered fresh banana juice. I don't know if you have tasted banana juice before, but you will all know the smell of bananas, okay? So you can already smell, you can already feel, you can already sense that smell use the banana smell using your nose. Then we have number 2, the earthen smell of the pot water welcomed him home. Those who have taken drinking water from a pot can testify that smell is earthly, okay? Or you can equate it to that smell when the rain is just beginning to fall on dry ground. So that is the kind of smell that you will picture with your nose, or you will imagine with your nose. And lastly, there we have the smell of stale beer heavily hung in the air. Please put emphasis on the bolded words, because that is where our point of emphasis is. So those are olfactory images. Can you smell those lines? Just like the question asks. If you can smell those lines, then that is an olfactory image. Going on, we have what we call gustatory images. Gustatory images are to do with our sense of taste. Our sense of taste. Ladies and gentlemen, when we are talking about gustatory images, we know that when it comes to taste, our tongue comes in handy. So these appeal to our sense of taste. Still, let me take you back to the poem Letter from a Contract Worker. That line, the last line we had there, of your eyes sweet as honey. All of us have tasted honey. We know that it is sweet. We do not have to tell you how honey tastes, okay? So you can already see a gustatory image in that line. Or we can also see another image from David Diop's poem, Africa. In this line, that is Africa, your Africa, and its fruit gradually acquires the bitter taste of liberty. Put emphasis on the word bitter, okay? Put emphasis on the word bitter. We can only taste bitterness or sweetness with our tongue. That is why it is called a gustatory. That is why it is called a gustatory image. I hope we are still together and you are taking notes of this. Now, girls and boys, we shall continue from there in our next session. Thank you for being a good audience. Feel free to check out all our videos on our page on YouTube and learn with us. Have a nice day.